Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Real Chalk Reviews. This review is for Tyler Perry's Zatima. This is Season 3, Episode 17, Forgiveness. So we open up the episode exactly where we left off, with Leslie drunk as a skunk rambling on about how much Malachi is still in love with Fatima. So she tells why her hair was exactly like Fatima's and why they were getting it on in their kitchen, and says that Malachi was all over their house looking through their stuff. So at this point, Malachi is getting fed up with Leslie, telling her that every time they try to get into a good place, I guess she starts acting a whole donkey, and she says how, because Fatima's always present in their marriage. So Zach asks Malachi, do you really love her like that? And Malachi looks him in his face and says yes. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. Now, let me just say, I'm proud of Zach that he actually sat there and kept his cool with all of that. But we know Zach for his works. He was mad at Paul for even changing Fatima's tires. And you mean to tell me this ex-lover of Fatima's was all up and through your stuff and admits to your face that he loves your woman like that, and you don't bother to ask him any questions or what his intentions are for your woman, because just 2 minutes ago, before y'all sat down for dinner, you were suspicious, but now it's cool. So anyway, Leslie, she says, tell them about the hotel, and Malachi says it wasn't me and that he had the picture doctored and sent it to her phone. So Leslie, why are you still with Malachi? Why are you trying to make a man love you that you know for a fact is in love with somebody else? But yet and still, you're in Fatima's face trying to tell her what you don't like about her man, as if Zach is the scum of the earth and your man is all of that in a bag of chips, because you claim he won't do this and won't do that, but all the while he's running circles around you and have you all messed up in the head. So Fatima was over it. Child, she was done with Leslie and all her drunken foolishness, told her she was looking stupid, and advised Malachi to get her up on out of there. So after the two of them leave, Fatima asks Zach, does he want to talk about it? And I felt like in this moment, a conversation definitely needed to be had. But he tells her that, yes, he's pissed off, but he's not fazed by Malachi because he knows Fatima. But yet and still, when he came home from jail, he automatically assumed that Fatima was the one up on that counter tongue wrestling with somebody. But anyway, he tells her the reason he's upset is because she let those two weirdos know where they kept the spare key. And I think that everybody and their mama would love to know, why would you let two people that you say have hurt you, that you haven't seen in a million years, first of all, know where you live at, and second, be able to get into this home that you share with your current fiance? It doesn't make any sense. The storyline doesn't add up. So Zach also added that he didn't like the fact that she didn't tell him about Malachi. So she tells Zach that she's not going to tell him about every man that has broken her heart and walked out on her, but yet and still, Fatima, you allowed this same man to know where your spare key is. So make it make sense. So Zach tells her, before you go inviting people in the house, I need to know what's going on. And I totally agree with that. So she tells Zach that she called him because Angela needed help with something, but didn't go into any details. And now she's not going to call him, and Zach encourages her to go ahead and do that. He didn't care. She said, no, she's not calling. She's good. He said, well, he's glad that they are on the same page. So Fatima all of a sudden insinuates that Malachi walked out on her and left her, but I thought that she left him because she caught him cheating with Leslie. See, again, the storyline doesn't add up. But nevertheless, that was a segue for Zach to say, well, I'll never leave you, and she brings up the whole Jeremiah situation again. So she tells Zach that he needs to go and see Jeremiah so that he doesn't press charges, and since this video is going around, he better hope that the DA doesn't pick up the charges. Zach pretty much didn't want to hear any of that, and that's when Fatima had to lay on the guilt trip like, oh, so you're going to leave me again. Zach was like, don't do that. So she basically tells him he needs to see Jeremiah before their mother's funeral, and Zach totally forgot, like, when is that, by the way? They discuss how they have to do it quick because the funeral home guy is a scammer, and Fatima went right back to the Jeremiah situation and told him she was going to text him the information where Jeremiah was. Fatima decided she was going to bed, and Zach said he was going to hit the streets. But Fatima didn't give a damn. She was unfazed. She didn't ask him not one question about it, as long as he cleaned up all the dinner mess. And Zach wanted to know, how did he get stuck having to be the one to clean up when they were her crazy friends and she ordered all this nasty ass food that nobody ate? So Zach, he heads over there to the barbershop to see Tony. And of course, once again, we have to see the 50 million locks on the door. So Zach asks him about it, and he says that there's been a string of robberies in the neighborhood and he's trying to come in at different times so he can throw them off. But he is packing that heat. So Zach brings up the fact that Fatima wants him to go and see Jeremiah, and Tony agrees and says that they don't want Jeremiah to press charges. And he says that Jeremiah was wrong, but tells Zach that he was also wrong. Now, because Tony is normally a yes man for Zach, he's shocked and appalled that Tony said this and wants to know how was he wrong, but he's already admitted to Preston and Fatima that he was wrong. So Tony, he has to pull out the viral video of him beating Jeremiah up and force him to look at it. So Tony, he started spitting some good advice to him, letting him know, look, Jeremiah is your brother and we can't choose our family. But basically, they're always going to be there. And you can't let outside people dictate your relationship, causing you to lose yourself and bring you out of character. Zach admits that he sounds exactly like Fatima saying that, and he says that's because she's right. So Tony does suggest that he goes and see Jeremiah, but if he doesn't want to, that's on him. And whatever decision he decides to make, there will be consequences. Zach says he'll think about it, and he tells Tony he appreciates the talk because they're locked in for life. So the two of them, they jokingly rag on each other, and Zach, he leaves, but Tony does not go behind him and lock the door. So Zach, he took heed and he goes over there to the hospital to see Jeremiah. The minute Jeremiah sees that it's Zach, he starts hollering for the doctor like, no, sir, you will not come up in here and finish the job and beat my behind again. So Zach lets him know like, no, I didn't come here for all of that. I just want to talk. So Jeremiah, he starts apologizing, saying how he has a problem. He didn't mean to hit Fatima. She failed. Zach really didn't want to hear all that, letting him know, look, you can never talk to her again. So Jeremiah tells him again that he's sorry and that he knows that Zach is sorry and he doesn't have to say it. So Zach wanted to know, how do you know that I'm sorry? And Jeremiah tells him, because you beat my ass before. Jeremiah says he wants to get off the drugs, and the difference now is that their mom is no longer here. The drugs is what caused her death, and that's enough to make him want to do better. So he asked his brother, will he be willing to help him and pay for him to go to rehab? So Zach tells him, yes, if you're serious about it this time, I'll do it. And then he gets ready to leave, and Jeremiah's like, well, what did you come for? So Zach says, I came to tell you that I was sorry. So Jeremiah said he was sorry, and he started sniffling, and then in that moment, I knew I was going to be needing some tissue my damn self. Jeremiah wanted to know when the funeral would be for their mom because he wanted to pay his respects. Zach said he'll let him know. Now, with us knowing that Jeremiah wants to go to the funeral, we'll just put a pin in that because I have questions about that later on. So Jeremiah says, look, I don't want to be like Mom. I guess Miss Gladys never showed them any kind of compassion or let them know how much she cared about them. So he tells Zach, I love you. I've always loved you. And the reason I treated you like ish is because of jealousy. So Zach can't wrap his head around why Jeremiah could possibly be jealous of him. And he tells him, look at you. You have money. All the women like you. And I'm a effing junkie. So Jeremiah, he asked for forgiveness, and Zach was like, you want that from me, and I almost beat you half to death. And he said, look, I deserved it. And he told him, I wish you hadn't stopped. And I thought that was like the saddest part of the conversation, because Jeremiah would rather be unalived than to go through life feeling the way that he does. Woo, child. So Jeremiah, he brings up his kids, and this is the second time we've heard him talk about his kids, but not having a relationship with them. He says that too much damage has been done. Zach reassures him, look, just get up off of this stuff because it's never too late to make amends. And we're witnessing that between the two brothers here right now. They tell one another that they love each other. They apologize again. Zach is crying. Jeremiah is crying. I'm crying. They hug. Zach kisses him on the top of the head. And I just felt like this was the best scene of the season. And shout out to the makeup department that has Jeremiah's face looking the way that it does, because baby, that eye is closed. You hear me? So after Zach leaves the hospital, he goes back home. Fatima is asleep, but he kind of wakes her up and he lets her know that he went to see Jeremiah and he tells her what happened. And he mentions that Jeremiah said he wanted to get help and she wanted to know was he going to help him, and he said, I'll do what I can. So, of course, in the midst of all of that, Zach is over there trying to hunch and Fatima is not having it. But since they're up, now she has questions for him. So Fatima wanted to know when Leslie held up that fake-ass photo of her and Malachi, why didn't Zach blink an eye? He said he knows that she wouldn't do anything like that. And I'm like, all right, be careful. Never say what a person will or won't do. But I get it. They're trying to let us see that Zach has the utmost trust for Fatima. So Zach says he knew she wasn't with Malachi in that photo because he took one look at it and knew that it was old because of the piercing that she had in the photo. He said that that hole has been closed and letting her know that he's very attentive and he knows about every hole on her body. So Zach said, since we're up being transparent, let's talk about some of your issues. So Zach, he brings up the fact that she flies off the handle and she jumps to conclusions, but both of them agree that she has gotten better. So he tells her that she tends to be insecure sometimes, and she says that he's taking it a bit too far. So she's a little shocked and appalled by him saying that, and she says, look, Fatima and insecure doesn't go into the same sentence, and he lets her know, but it goes into the same person. And she lets him have that and tells him that's his truth. She doesn't have to agree. But at the end of the day, the both of them need to work on things, and they agree to get better together. So we go back over there to the barbershop and we see somebody sneaking and creeping into the unlocked door, and they pull out a piece telling Tony, you know what time it is. Now at the time his back is turned and you could tell he's fumbling around looking for his protection, so when he turns around the guy says, run it. So Tony, he's trying to talk to the guy like, you don't want to do this. The young guy's like, look, do you want to be unalive? Because I'm not playing. So they go back and forth, and the guy said, I said, give it to me now. And Tony had that look like, I'm not giving you a damn thing. Next thing you know, shots ring out. And that's where the episode ends. Woo, child. Tony got caught slipping, but what actually happens in the barbershop? But one thing we do know, Tony will survive. Now, as far as the episode goes, my favorite part was Zach being mature, going to see his brother, working towards making amends with him, and at least just taking those first steps. I really, really enjoyed that scene. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode. And as always, you guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.